So listen, I have seen an online trending debate, okay, that the new Batman is better than the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like,
You've
that's
seen it,
not,
though.
I've seen it.
I've seen it.
Listen, it's a good Batman. It is. It really is a good Batman. But it's not Dark Knight. Like, if there is ever a Batman movie that beats the Dark Knight, that's when we know the world is ending. Okay? That's when we know it's over.
So
okay?
the new Batman is something that you would probably put your sunglasses on to go watch in the theater. Like if you had something wrong with your eye or something like that and didn't want to be viewed,
Yeah,
seen, you know,
that would, you know what,
like
actually.
a disguise, like.
Yeah, well, the movie is pretty dimly lit, so you might want to do that. But you know what? In terms of, it's not a bad movie. It's better than Val Kilmer, the Batman Forever, whatever those are. Maybe, you know, I would put Michael Keaton's a little higher. But no one's going to touch the Dark Knight series, like in my eyes.
I don't know. Brandon's a big fan of the Michael Keaton Batman.
Yeah, that's where it started. Michael Keaton.
Brandon's not a fan of how Christian Bale talks as Batman. It often makes fun of him.
Yeah, he's too dark.
Where are they? Where are they? So,
Well, look, speaking of, Brandon's talking about sunglasses. Brandon's in the studio today with sunglasses on. Why do you got sunglasses on here today, Brandon?
We had a little issue with our eyes over the weekend.
What happened?
We have an infant at the house, or, well, I guess more a toddler. So I'm not sure, but I got a sty, and it looks like, you know, I just went 30 seconds with Mike Tyson in one eye.
So what you're telling us is you're pretty sty for a white guy.
Pretty sty for a white guy, yeah.
so I think the best philosophy is I go off the Billy Madison technique. If peeing your pants is cool, everyone needs to put glasses on so we all fit in, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Hey man, I'm a big Roy Orbison fan.
Let's do it. Great. There we go.
Let's do it. We go. All right. Oh shit, we got the lights coming on in.
So Trader, go ahead and get this thing started.
Should I? Should we start it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. That's Tone Loc right there, by the way.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So in the words of Tone Loc, let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Prop Culture Podcast. I am your host, Matt Trader, and of course, I've got my tag team partner with me here today, property manager extraordinaire, Mr. Shane Snoots, ladies and gentlemen. And today, on a very special episode, we have from the Chesapeake Appraisal Group, owner and operator of the Chesapeake Appraisal Group, Mr. Brandon Ross. And Brandon's on the show here today. He's going to tell us all about the market because this market is crazy. So we brought an expert on to talk about us and give us a true appraisal, if there even is one nowadays, about what's going on. So
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. The one thing that Matt told me before coming here today, he said that you're big on, you know, just meats and grilling. So it's an interesting topic to start out with because it's kind of indicative of the real estate market with pricing and everything going up. So what is that one of your hobbies you do? Do you have a smoker in the backyard? Tell me, like, what's you know?
Got a pellet smoker, got a charcoal grill.
Is it Traeger?
Gas grill. It is a Traeger, yeah.
Are they for real? Are they as real as they say they are?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. You don't have to vent the flames or anything like that. You put the pellets in, you set your temp, and just keep an eye on, you know, so you don't burn anything, basically. It's set it and forget it, basically.
how do you rub your meat, Brandon?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you glaze it up? Is it glazed?
Yeah, sauce the meat from time to time.
Like marinated?
Yeah, some
And
things are marinated.
What kind of marinades do you use?
I probe it, you know, to find the temperature.
Okay.
You know?
And that's, so these are all normal techniques that you would use to do that.
Yeah.
But like, and I've always been interested in it, but you know, to be fair, I like have severe ADHD. So I just can't, my patience level of doing that.
Right.
But I've always been into that, like wanted to know how to marinate. Like, so if you were to marinate something, what is it? How long do you have to like marinate the meat, all that kind of stuff?
Well, there's a chicken wing recipe that I have. You do it overnight. So it's a bottle of Italian seasoning. And you put some Frank's Red Hot in there, some soy sauce, and some Worcestershire.
Oh, yeah.
And let that sit overnight. And then the next day, put a little rub on it, throw them on the smoker for 2 hours. Boom. You got probably had some of the best wings you've ever had.
Dude, they
Really?
are unbelievable. So Brandon and I do this little thing every year called Skip Day.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like we just skip a day.
Yeah.
Of course, in our line of work.
Kind of like you used to in high school.
in high school. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Senior skip day.
Although
Yeah.
you really can't skip a day when you're selling commercial real estate, property management, appraisals. But we try to, right?
Right.
And Brandon he just barbecues these wings, and they're like,
Dude,
unbelievable.
You know what? So that would mean that most are the parties at your house when it comes to like cookouts and stuff. Because if you have that kind of setup,
He's got the pool. He's got the pool.
So he has the setup then.
Yeah.
Because typically, if you're a grill master, that's where the party's always at your spot, right?
Typically.
Like I've never seen somebody who's bad at grilling and be like, "Hey, come over to my house. Like
Right.
it'll be fun." You know,
Anybody
like
coming over
I
for
can't
that.
make shit. You know what I mean? Like so. But you know what? It really. I've noticed this because I love fillets. Filet mignon is like that's my go-to if we're having a cookout, whatever it is.
Right.
But I've noticed pricing has gone up on all of that stuff. So it's been getting crazier and crazier. How many times a week do you kind of eat? Do you grill out or whatever? You smoke?
I try to put something on the smoker every weekend.
Yeah,
If I can.
yeah.
But, depending on where you go, you can get deals, this, that, and the other. Like I do a prime rib on the smoker every year for Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was like $16 a pound at the time. So it was like over $100 for like an 8-pounder.
Really?
Yeah.
And
So
is
was
it steadily increasing, would you say?
Yeah, starting to see just about everything and the availability of things. Like sometimes, you go in the grocery store, you can't find wings, and thighs sometimes you can't find, and so it's crazy times that we're seeing.
It's like that with everything right now.
Yeah,
And we didn't bring you on the show today to talk about meat, although we could probably talk about it for a while, especially on the day that it is today.
Yes.
Because it's a very special day today. For those of you who don't know, today is the Man's Valentine's Day. March 14th, Man's Valentine's Day. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, we're not going to come out and tell you because we like to keep it PC on here, but get out your phones, your tablets, whatever you use, and go ahead and Google that, and get ready to fillet some mignons, ladies and gentlemen. And, all right.
But
so-
hold on.
What's up?
I gotta say this. This is another special day.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Today is your birthday.
It is, yeah.
So you don't look a day over 51. My brother. Happy birthday to you, brother.
Yeah, 41's treating me all right. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Oh, before we go into that. So Brandon's birthday was last month, and we're gonna come back. Brandon's birthday was last month. I picked Brandon up something, okay, because Brandon's a big Chicago Bulls fan. He's got the NBA League Pass. He's watching the Bulls like crazy. So I got him from Dead Stock Apparel in Ocean City at the Outlets Ocean City. By the way, if you guys haven't been to Dead Stock at Outlets Ocean City, make sure you check it out. Great. Anyhow, I got him this replica of the 1996 Chicago Bulls championship hat. It's pretty amazing. It's called a Dealers Club hat, but I wanted to pick that up for you, Brandon. I haven't had a chance to give it to you. I want to give it to you today on the show.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, Dealers Club.
Nice.
Now, it's a Dealers Club, it's called. Now, let's talk deals.
Yeah.
Everything else, let's get out of business. So, Brandon, we got you on the show here today, obviously, because you're an appraiser. The market is crazy right now. It's schizophrenic. Just when you think things may level out, it goes back up.
Yeah.
I know in my game, I'm watching things trade all over the place. Properties that are similar are trading for different prices, and I think a lot of people out there really don't fully understand the market because none of us really do.
Yeah.
And that's why we got you on the show today. What are you seeing, and what are some of the challenges right now, as an appraiser?
Obviously, prices are high, probably the highest they've been in quite some time. But we're not really seeing anything slowing down as far as, I guess property values and that sort of thing come down. We are starting to see a little bit of the volume slow up, but, that's kind of typical this time of the year. So really, on the residential side of things, we kind of heat up basically when schools are starting to let out.
Yeah.
Because typically people don't like to relocate their families while school's in session. Now, since COVID, I mean, everybody seems to be working from home and that sort of thing. So it's just been, a rocket ship for the last 2 years for the real estate side that we've seen.
Yeah.
But I guess our biggest difficulty is new construction. Appraisals.
Well, that's all you have available really now is the new construction.
And people are building left, right, and center. But our main issue is it's difficult for us to find new construction comps.
Yeah.
Because if I own a piece of land and contact a builder to build me a home,
Yeah.
I'm not going to contact a realtor so they can put it on the multiple listing service.
Right.
Because that's, as appraisers, that's where we get our comps.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if we had to scour through the county tax records, it would take us 4 months to get an appraisal done.
Yeah.
You know, so unfortunately, that's where we had the biggest issue, you know, with getting people are paying, you know, a certain amount of money to build this house, but how can we justify it by putting it up against resales, basically?
Right.
That's our biggest difficulty.
So I have, like, I guess my biggest question too, like, and this is more stuff, because everyone, you hear the chatter, you know what I mean? You hear the chatter now, everyone's starting to go, the market's gonna crash, you know, you work on that side of appraisals. Mm-hmm. So and again, you can answer however you want to, you know, I'm not forcing you to, but do you think the market is going to, you know, the bottom's going to drop out doomsday, or is it a little more of a complicated answer?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously, if we could all see into the future, we'd all be sitting in, you know,
right,
a DeLorean,
bigger chairs or something.
A DeLorean.
Right? Yeah, a DeLorean. Yeah. But usually from our side, we can kind of tell where the market's going to go based on the secondary market.
Right.
So, you know, Ocean City, those markets down by the beach are something that if you have an exposable income, you purchase those properties.
Right.
We're starting to see a slow down of activity in that market. So that's an indicator that things might happen.
In Ocean City?
Yeah.
Because it was going crazy, like crazy a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Everybody was buying up everything, multifamily, everything, because of those J1 workers.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to find houses for their employees.
Right.
But I think the Airbnb business has taken off significantly since 2020 because everybody was locked down. So I think that the Airbnb stuff has been huge down there.
Yeah.
Well, just in coastal. Actually, I see Airbnbs in Salisbury. Like, wildly enough, I've seen a lot of people buy investment properties for Airbnb.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I get probably 2 to 3 phone calls from owners down in Crisfield doing Airbnbs for new management services, you know, which is kind of crazy because I would have never taken Crisfield as an Airbnb market.
Right.
But it seems to be one of those, like, they're buying waterfront condos and they're, you know, they think it's a good market.
Property, man.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's a great place to probably find some value right now.
Exactly.
You never know where it's going to go.
Well, that's you know? It's all a guessing game. But, you know, I seen over the weekend, I think somebody, being around a ton of real estate agents over the weekend, of course, that's all we talk about. So, like, they were saying that the feds came out, they're going to raise it now, 7 times, they said, in the next year, I think it was.
Yeah, but with everything going on in Europe, I mean, I can't see them, especially with the gas prices and everything going up. I can't. But they're going to have to combat this inflation somehow, and I guess maybe that's a tactic. But usually, historically, a 0.5 point of rise of interest rates historically is about a 7 to 12% loss in property value.
Yeah,
historically, you know. So I mean, as far as that goes from the appraisal side of it, if the market slows down or goes down, it won't really show for 6 to 12 months after that, because I mean that's where we pick our comps from. So we do an appraisal today, we're using stuff from July, August, that sort of thing, when the market was still. So I mean, it'd be, you know, a little while before it's reflective in appraisal reports. You know, so if you're refining your house or whatever you're doing, still a good time, in my opinion, because property values are still kind of at the peak.
So we're that's a great point about, you know, interest rates. Obviously, everybody talks about interest rates. We're in such an unusual time. The inventory is so low, and it is so challenging to build because of the cost. Do you think, or do you feel that the inventory being low will kind of combat the interest rates rising to kind of offset the decrease in the property value?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Obviously, you know, it's tough to predict how people are going to act, but I mean, that's one scenario that I could see playing out.
None of us
we
don't know. We're in unknown territory.
It's simple, supply and demand.
Exactly.
If there's no supply, it's always going to be at a demand, because there's always going to be people looking. there's never going to be a time where people are not looking for housing, right? Because you need a house.
Yeah.
I mean, logistically, you need a house.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, until inventory bounces back, I mean, and I don't know if that ever, like, what that looks like. But right now, I mean, if you look on the MLS for available homes in Wycomico County, like, there's not many. Like, there's just, and the amount of people looking, it's way over. I mean, it's
even
just
thinking
crazy.
about selling their house.
Yeah.
I get at least half a dozen phone calls from, people off the street every week that are thinking about listing their house. They want to know what it's worth. Let me get an appraisal. So, I mean,
how challenging, like, how challenging is it to be an appraiser in this climate where people, everybody thinks they can get top dollar, and I mean, most people are getting top dollar,
right?
But when maybe an appraisal comes back a little lower than expected, I mean, is there outrage towards you? I mean, because you're like you're like the doctor that comes by and has to tell their family member that
But you guys are
their family that their loved one's about to die.
Right.
Basically. Speaking of dying, Appraiser Ramone.
Let's give him the right tribute.
Yeah, go
let's
ahead.
give him the right tribute.
We got it. Yeah.
All right.
Appraiser Ramone, Scott Hall.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. R.I.P. Scott Hall.
Not yet, but it's getting close.
Well, they're pulling the plug this morning. I think they said this morning at some point they're pulling the plug. And that's, I mean, it's terrible to see. These are like childhood icons to us when they were Razor Ramone, Scott Hall, the NWO.
NWO changed wrestling forever.
I mean,
so
it's sad to see, but you see it more wrestlers, man, in general.
Yeah,
like
they made bad guys cool. Well, Ric Flair kind of made bad guys cool, but the NWO, they changed the game.
Oh, that was.
I
mean, at one point, dude, NWO was like the biggest thing.
Yeah,
the absolute biggest
100%.
thing. Yeah. Like, if you had an NWO, like, you were cool as hell if you had the NWO gear on, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were the outsiders. They were the most badass. And then Hulk Hogan, dude, your childhood icon,
greatest heel turn in the history,
turning
by far.
Like, oh my gosh, it was one of the best things that growing up. That was an amazing time.
Yeah.
To be around and be a wrestling fan.
Dude, I even brought my Hulk Hogan doll with us here today.
Look at that.
Look at that. Talk about loving Hulk Hogan.
Dude,
let me tell you something, brother.
Let me tell you that,
Hollywood changed the game. But
but I guess this is probably our biggest problem.
Sorry, we wanted to give a shout out to Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Not many people know this. For those of you who are like, what the hell are you talking about? Scott Hall, wrestler, Razor Ramone, you guys might know him out. He's on life support right now. They're talking about pulling the plug today. It's a shock to everybody in our studio, but we just want to give him a shout out and a proper send off. And Shane hit him with the greatest quote of all times: "Bad guy or good times don't last, but bad guys do." That's right. Now, let's segue back to Brandon's question because
dude, that's such a badass line. Do you understand how a badass line that is? Just to be, and that was his Hall of Fame speech, and this to hit people with that, you're like, oh man, that's kind of true.
We're all over the place. We're like the market.
This is our problem. This is our problem. Me and you have this problem. We'll talk about 35 things at one time. So back to that.
Back to Brandon. So the challenges of appraising in today's real estate market. You are the bad guy, right? So even if the bad times don't last, actually it's the good times. Either way, you're going to last, right? Yeah. And so what's the challenges of today, man? Like what are you seeing? I mean, realtors mad at you?
Well, I mean, we're the piñata. Nobody's ever happy with us, I mean, because we have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't get paid on commission and that sort of thing. So we're doing our job in compliance with everything. We have so many rules and regulations that we have to stick to, CYA, all across the board. So, I mean, banks, homeowners, realtors, we get it from everywhere. Everybody's house is 25% more than the value that we put on it, it seems like. And it's frustrating at times, especially when you're dealing with these new constructions like I was alluding to earlier. Because, in 18 months from now, when they go to get out of those construction loans and their property's 80% of what it was to build it, Now they're underwater. The bank's lost money.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we can't get to the construction price, and we get a lot of pushback, because obviously, they want the deal to go through, but at the end of the day,
I think the sad part is not even sad. I think you guys are tasked with almost the most important part of this is keeping the market regulated through this time, right?
Yeah, right.
Because as real estate agents, we're going with the market, right? We're like, we get a listing, the owner wants, we look at comps, okay, they want 420 for it, right? But this is where like lenders and appraisers come in and go, this house is not 420 though.
Right.
And then you guys are tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the market does not get out of hand like it did in 2008.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a rough position to be in because you got to deliver some bad news.
Yeah.
And, if anybody knows about delivering it, I do this for property management for a living, so it's not,
You understand.
Yes.
One of the reasons that the market did get out of hand in 2008 was because of the appraisers' relationship with the banks and the real estate agents, right?
Exactly.
So how did, this is something that a lot of people probably don't realize, how did the protocol change because of all the predatory stuff that went on back in those days? How did it change now for how a bank selects an appraiser?
Well, basically, we don't really even talk to the loan officer. They have what they call a loan processor.
Yeah.
So if we have any questions or issues or anything like that, that's who we contact.
Yeah.
So they're kind of in between us. So, really, we're not allowed to really, talk to the loan officer. There's a rotation at all these banks.
Yeah.
So if we're approved for a bank, we get a report, then we go to the bottom until it's our turn again. So like, if you were refining your house, you couldn't go to the bank and say, hey, I want, Chesapeake Appraisal Group, because obviously there's a conflict of interest there. So those are just a couple of the things that they put in place to kind of keep it more even keeled.
It should be that way.
Yeah,
it really should. Yeah.
So like, we'll do an appraisal for someone on their home, and then they'll call us and say, hey, why did you do this? And why did you do that? And da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, I understand your concerns. We'd be happy to look at it, but we cannot talk anything value related to you directly. You have to contact the bank, then the bank will contact us. So there's a lot of rules that you have to follow. Otherwise, you could get in the soup pretty good,
Yeah.
So it's difficult at times because, like I said, everybody wants the highest value for their property, obviously, but at the end of the day, you have to deliver some bad news. You could offer me $1 million for my house and I accept it. But when the appraisal comes,
you have to come in and you have to say, I'm sorry, this is
$300,000.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, what's crazy? So I wanted to ask you this. So last year there was a certain time period, like there was a certain switch in the market. It was like this, like maybe it was this time last year. So, and I have like kind of a story. So one of my good friends was offered a house, okay, that he wanted to buy. And at the time, comps in the area, everything that had sold was like 300,000, 300, 383, in that ballpark.
Right.
All right. He got offered, the owner offered it to him at, this price. Well, now that it's, 6 months later, they want to go back to the table. The owner's like, we want $500,000 for the house.
Oof.
And it's like, but here's the thing. The sad part is when you look at comps that sold in like the last 3-6 months, they were in 300, but the market is different now. So how does that affect your, because it was just like that. It was literally a snap of a finger. Everything changes.
Yeah, well, we do time adjustments.
Yeah.
So we kind of take that into effect as well, like kind of on a monthly. So, if we're doing an appraisal today and we've got a comp from July and November, based on those market trends, which we can pull from the MLS, we'll make a corresponding adjustment. So the July sale might get a 10% adjustment, whereas the November sale might only get a 5% because it's a little more recent.
Yeah.
But that is something that we've had to, and since I've been in the appraisal industry, almost 10 years now.
It's been that long.
That's
That's crazy.
It goes
right?
by.
crazy how it all started too.
It is crazy. How, we'll talk. That's great. We'll talk about that in a minute.
That's pretty much it. I mean, the time adjustment is kind of our thing, but another issue that we run into is with these AMC companies.
Yeah.
And AMCs are basically a company that gets in touch with us for work for like a Wells Fargo or your bigger lenders across the nation.
Yeah.
So we have clients in California, Detroit, Florida. So when we do something in Deal Island and have to go 13 miles for a comp because, we have to write a small book on addendum to explain to them, hey, here's the market. This is what,
Yeah.
So it's, but those are some of the challenges.
It's nuts you're seeing it's nuts you're seeing the comps change month to month. Because when I was started out, and for the longest time, it was always 2 years out.
Yeah.
You ran your comps 2 years out. Now you're talking about like your comp in November is different than your comp in January.
Yeah.
That's insane, man.
It is.
It's wild times.
There is a whole slew of, finding comps usually now is not an issue.
Yeah.
And it's basically been that way for 2 years.
So we're talking about the housing game, and I'm in commercial real estate. How is commercial real estate different right now? I mean, it's all over the place for us, but just from an appraiser standpoint, what are you seeing on that end?
It's kind of, obviously it's picked up as well. It picks up for us, appraisal wise towards the end of the year. I was trying to get the taxes straight. But as far as inventory and activity, obviously, just like everything else in the market, it's picked up.
Yeah.
But I would say the residential side has just been, nuts.
Because I know from seeing things on my end, everybody, when I don't know, just a year ago, 2 years ago, everybody wanted that 6-7 cap rate. And then when you're dealing with some of these income producing properties, these net lease properties like your CVS's and your Dollar Generals, those things are trading at like, 4.5. I mean, if you get a 5 cap on some of those deals, it's insane.
Wow.
But one of the things that's really crazy is, everything used to go off income. So that's kind of the question I was going to ask you. But everything kind of was going off the income approach for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you're still seeing that, because what I'm seeing is some of these shopping centers with vacancy where everything used to go by the NOI, now it's kind of a little bit, it's flipping a little bit because the cost of construction is so high that we're seeing things valued more at price per square foot because you can buy something that's already built, a lot cheaper than it costs to build everything now. So that's where I've really seen things change, and people really find value that way versus, income is X, so I'm going to apply this cap rate to it, and we're going to just do a basic income approach, and that's the number we're going to wind up at.
And
are you seeing that too?
And not to mention, the amount of inventory as far as sales go.
Yeah.
That are out there, because everybody seems to be buying and selling left, right, and center. So I think that has something to do with it as well. There's so more emphasis can be put on that method of value in the property.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the inventory is so much greater that, because before, if you only had 2 medical buildings to put, if you're doing a medical office or something and only had 2 medical comps, obviously you want to put more emphasis on another method because you don't have the sales. Everybody,
I always try to sell a lot of things, especially your value add stuff, based on gross potential. Because things, you have vacancy. Yeah, so it's like, well, look at the potential. And everybody like, no, I'm basing this off of current income. And it was harder to get those deals through, but now everybody's kind of looking more at that gross potential.
Let me ask you this. No, let me ask you this. I think the one thing that I realized over the last 2 years is like, there has been investors have been big on commercial units with additional, like, is there ways for them to earn additional income on all of their stuff? Just in my experience, when we have an investor come through, they're looking at a retail space, but it has 3 apartments above it. Yeah. They're like, okay, this is great. Or they have potential of 3 units above it, right? They're looking at additional ways, because I guess the biggest, and maybe you can actually answer this. This is probably, but like with the way that the market was when the pandemic shut down, okay? I think everyone working from home and all these spaces really scared people. But I thought the opposite. I felt like people wanted to be out more. People that I understand big office spaces in New York City. There's whole things that are going to be, and people want to work remotely. But also, I still feel like people being inside for so long, they want it to get out and go try that shirt on, those shoes, whatever it is. Do you see like kind of is it more
So
or?
I think there's kind of a twofold question there.
Yeah.
Because you asked how you could maximize your income, your potential. So usually most of our investors, and we always try to direct people this way, when you're evaluating property, you want to see where your rents are at, your net rents.
Yeah.
Right. And most people would think that you want, and obviously the higher the rents are, the more you could sell it for if you're using a basic income approach.
Right.
But most investors and how we direct people is you want to try to find things that are under market rent, because you want the upside. If you're coming in under market $2, $3, $4, and you've got a 100,000 square foot shopping center, you're like, okay, I can at least get $2 more a square foot on that.
Yeah.
Well, you've increased your NOI substantially, increased your value substantially. I think where else you're going with this is you're talking about the ability to add residential components to other things that weren't typically residential.
Correct.
And honestly, this is something I hear every day. And, I fear what's going to happen to office space because of what you mentioned.
Well, that's what I mean.
People are working from home. Everybody, I think, scared of office space. Right?
Yeah.
And everybody's, the people who own office space, like, I could easily just convert that to residential. And that does sound great. And I do think we're going to see a lot of that. But what is that going to do if everybody starts converting their vacancy on office space, retail, malls, whatever it is, to residential? I mean, to me, in my opinion, it's going to be great initially, but it's probably going to oversaturate the market, and that could bring rents down because you're going to have more competition. I don't know. That's a question for you, really, because you know that market.
Well, I think to go through the loan process, to get such a big loan for a multifamily, they do a lot of studies. They have to show that the market can bear. If you're going to build 250 units and they're 2 bedrooms or 3, there's a lot of there's a lot of procedures to make sure that when a bank's giving you that loan, that actually you can make those. I think it's the vacancy rate. Don't quote me on it, but it's somewhere in 90%. Like somewhere like they understand there's like a float in.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's where it's like they have to be able to justify that to a bank that, hey, this area has a lot of potential, right? Like I'm from Frederick, Maryland. Dude, they're running out of land. Like it used to be a small farm town. Now there's buildings everywhere, multifamily, townhome complex, everything. They're putting, so I guess if
Frederick is blowing up.
Yeah.
So tell you, District 41, it's an old mall in Frederick.
Yeah.
So literally right before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
You're
talking about the old Fredericktown Mall.
The old Fredericktown Mall. So right before that hit, I'm at ICSC. We're hanging out. We're by the pool doing deals where everything gets done, right?
Yeah.
And I just sitting there randomly talking, having drinks, and I start working on a 60,000 square foot deal for an entertainment complex to basically take over this whole mall.
Yeah.
We were working on it, and then the pandemic hit, and the whole landscape of the industry changed. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But it made me think of
didn't Warehouse Movies move in there?
I know they were working. So they were working on a theater.
Yeah.
And then we were getting ready to put a major family entertainment complex.
Oh yeah.
It was a big deal that we were working on. But where resident, we got to get back to Brandon. But where the industry is right now with retail is you have to offer an experience. Nobody's going to leave, like you said. Everybody's at home. So nobody wants to leave their house when they can just hit a button on Amazon, and buy whatever they want. But if you got a trampoline park, chimpanzee, a couple roller coasters, everybody's coming, man. Dude, I want to go there and then you go buy, your clothes. You go buy your apparel.
Can we roll back to the chimpanzee? Because that's dangerous,
I don't
Bubba.
know, man.
Bubba, you get some kids around a chimpanzee, I mean, they will pull their arms out.
Bubba?
That's true.
I mean,
I don't know,
what? Are you signing insurance waivers for it?
Something, man,
I mean, listen, I get it. I understand what you're saying, but the chimpanzee is a little more on the danger. I know they sound, it sounds fun, but
it's like, what's Cat Williams say? I don't like chimpanzees, but children do.
But babies do.
Right.
Until that baby has no arms.
All
okay,
right, we can talk for. So let's go back. Go ahead.
So I guess. I guess this is one of those things where we were talking in reference to the rates and everything else that's going up, but I know that Trader also told me something that you're a big Bulls fan, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing, okay? When you hear people, talk about LeBron James is better than Michael Jeffrey Jordan, okay?
Yeah. I'm almost numb to it at this point.
Okay, all right, there we go. It is.
This has been going on for years, and a lot of those people arguing the point think that basketball started in like the year 2000.
It's blast.
Like
yeah.
And I'm sure the same argument could be said, for people of my generation with someone that thought Kareem was the best.
Yeah.
They're like, well, basketball didn't start in the 90s.
Yeah.
They were playing this well before, but I mean,
dude, Jordan was first off, he was a psychopath. I mean, he literally would make up stories about people dissing him just to drop 40 on him. Okay, who does that? Like as a literally,
I feel him on that, though, man.
here's the thing. That's how crazy he was about winning. He would be like, "No, this dude, he disrespected me.
Well, if he didn't,
I'm gonna drop 50 on you."
If he didn't go play baseball for 2 years in Birmingham, we wouldn't be having this.
But
talk.
did he though? Did he go play base? Did he, or did the NBA have? Did they make him
You
do
think
it?
he would have beat Akeem?
Dude, this is the part of this. This is the part of the series conspiracy theories, right? Like, dude, I don't know, man. He was listen, he was at the peak of his powers, and he walked away. I don't know.
It robbed us of watching him against his greatest, which I think would have been his greatest opponent, the Houston Rockets. Because Houston had the Bulls' number back then. I remember vividly. I'm a big Jordan fan. Jordan's my man. Jordan's why I still love the NBA to this day. I'm a huge NBA fan.
If I'm
Hakeem and Barkley.
Yeah, dude, he's
no, this was before the
he's bodying.
Squad,
dude,
man.
he's gonna that. There's something wrong with him in his brain to where he's like, oh, you disrespected me. Oh, did you hear what he said about Clyde Drexler? It's like Clyde's great, but he ain't me.
Yeah,
Clyde's great, but he ain't me. He said the fact that they compared him to him, he was pissed off. Like that's how crazy. He was like, "It's so you actually are comparing me to Clyde? Like I'm going to destroy this man."
Scored what 6 threes in the first quarter or something like that.
Oh,
game 2 or
game
3.
He gave the shoulder shrug.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, this man was. What's even worse now? You have to be a Bulls fan. This probably is even worse for you. Is to see Scotty and Michael fighting.
Oh, it's terrible.
Well, actually, Michael's not fighting because he's like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm paid.
Yeah.
I'm the best player on the entire planet. I probably could still beat 90% of the league right now.
Right.
But to see Scotty just like to try to go about the whole like this campaign of Michael's not a good dude after the Last Dance, isn't that kind of sad?
Yeah, it is. Because, I mean, I'm sure he lived in his shadow for 20 years. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some animosity built up, there. But, yeah, that's kind of a low blow. I mean,
were you a Scotty fan?
56 years. Yeah.
Were you okay? But did you like Dennis or Scotty better?
Dennis Rodman?
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Well,
Rod.
Well, when
Rodzilla.
Rodman came, it was
he was the second
level.
wave. Yeah,
it was. I'm a Paxson fan.
Okay. Well,
like
that's
John
a hot
Paxson.
take.
Yeah.
That's a hot take, brother. Wow.
shoot, man.
I'm a Steve Kerr fan, actually.
But
love
them boys not. They didn't hit those shots though.
That's a hot
Those
take.
guys hit key shots to the window. That's what people don't understand.
Judge Bushler.
I mean,
all those
if
guys.
Kyle Korver hits that shot, a couple of those shots that LeBron passed off.
Stacey King's the
might
announcer
have-
for them on
Yeah,
the local.
yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
Paxson, man, hit key
He was
shots
the
back
GM.
then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but there's never. And listen, here's the thing: the debate about LeBron James and him. It's simple. Scotty was always the number 2. Scotty was always number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at DWade, you look at Chris Bosh, all those guys were all true number 1s on their team when they formed the Big 3. Okay. Like LeBron's always had help, and I guess my biggest thing is you can say that Michael's had help.
Yeah.
But they were like the perfect pieces. If they weren't all, the year that he came back or without him, they made it to the conference final, all that stuff. But they also they needed him to get to the finals.
Right.
Michael was the final piece, and without Michael, they didn't have the killer on the floor.
But in fairness to LeBron, I mean, he was carrying that Heat team through some of those injuries. I mean,
if you wanted to say the Cavs,
Bosh was hurt through some of those series. Wade was. I mean, there were some injuries there.
If you wanted to say his first one with the Cavs, he was carrying them. I will agree because he had a squeegee, a mop bucket, a mop. Dude, he had no one, okay? But the second run, when he came back and had Kyrie, he had a killer on the floor. He had Kevin Love. Like, you have to.
But those guys did nothing when he left.
No,
they
but they're
nothing when he left. They haven't done anything.
No, but they're bad. I mean, they're starting.
Yeah,
they've got a young core now.
Well, that would
Kyrie
be
on
like
the
the
team.
Jackson 5 going on without Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
But
what I mean?
you can't.
they had to
you can't
Sing and
discount
play the
LeBron.
harmonica, but they've got nobody.
My biggest problem is once he leaves the team, you're right. Everyone once he leaves, the team goes down, this and that. But here's the problem. They're mortgaging all their future right there. Like
I agree with
when
that.
you're saying like
That's a great
he's
point.
trading like the next 8 years to get a player.
Well,
look at
what
the
they
current
did.
spot.
Yeah, look what they just traded for the Lakers to the Wizards.
Dumbest
last
move in
year.
the history
Yeah.
of basketball.
That was the best
Russell
trade.
Westbrook, yeah.
For Russell Westbrook,
Westbrook is-
and you knew, and they knew.
Yeah.
They knew it wasn't the best. Like they just had to do it, and they're trying to appease LeBron. And that's all I'm saying is sometimes you never heard that. That's the difference between today and back in the '90s. You didn't hear that there was any turmoil.
Yeah, that's not true. Because I mean, I lived this. So Jordan multiple times when I was a kid threatened to go to New York if they didn't get him help. That's true. That's reality. You can look that up. And he definitely threatened. I mean, he pressured the
This was
pressured.
This is when they kept getting to the Pistons.
And everybody
couldn't get past the
everybody talks
Pistons.
about Kobe. Oh, Kobe didn't want to leave. That's bullshit too. Kobe threatened to leave LA multiple times if they didn't get him help. You just don't see it today.
Well,
because the business is different.
But back then they didn't listen. Back then, Michael Jordan wasn't hopping on Twitter and being passive aggressive about leaving Chicago. Like he wasn't. He wasn't like maybe if I had help, I'd be better or something. Like he's not doing all that soft shit. Like that's not what Michael. If Michael legitimately needed help, because when he was getting beat by the Pistons, they were beating the piss out of him.
Yeah.
Literally, they were. I mean, yeah, dude.
They destroyed.
I mean, it was football. It was literally football during those times. So, like,
I used to cry when he would lose to the Pistons, and it happened every freaking year.
And you want to know a funny fact? This game that we got behind us here, this NBA Jam game, was written by two Pistons fans.
Yeah, this is great.
So if the Bulls play the Pistons, if you're the Bulls playing the Pistons for AI-controlled Pistons, you'll never win.
Really?
Scotty, I think it's Scotty Horse Grant.
Shit.
Cannot make, and if it's the last minute of the game, there's an algorithm in there or something where if you have like a sure-on dunk, he does the inflated layup and all this stuff because they wrote that into the code of the game.
Oh wow, dude! So
And I'm sure you can.
they were
Google
so
something on
hateful,
that.
dude.
Well, Brandon's telling you. Brandon's telling
no,
you,
it is-
you better step your game up and be smashing your opponent.
No, but nothing's
so,
worse.
So you don't have to get to game 7
Yeah,
like
but don't
LeBron,
play the-
or like Michael,
play the
because he
Pistons,
ended it in game 6. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I guess to what I'm trying to say is everything is more polarizing now with LeBron James. Everything is more. He's on Twitter. He's doing this. Back then, you didn't have those outlets. You did not have social media. You had a reporter. You had a beat writer that these things would come out. And I mean, even watching the Last Dance series, you heard that. Yeah. Like there were beat writers that knew there was problems on the inside, but it was rarely reported because Michael was. They reported differently on Michael. I mean, he was the league at that point. They didn't.
So one of the things that people don't realize is there was so much riding on Michael Jordan. People don't understand this. So the NBA struggled for years. And if you watch the new series, which they haven't got into this yet, but if you watch the new series called Winning Time on HBO, unbelievable. They talk about the Lakers and how bad the NBA was. They couldn't get anything. Well, the NBA didn't sign their first major TV contract until 1988, right? They were like when I was a kid, you had to stay up till like 1 a.m. to watch the NBA Finals on tape delay. And these weren't just finals. Yeah. These were like Lakers, like Celtics and stuff. Like Lakers, like Houston, Boston, like those series. Well, when the NBA signed their first major contract, it was all revolving around Michael Jordan. Nike had all their money invested in Michael Jordan. And the NBA had all their money invested in Michael. So you had the NBA, you had NBC and Nike. Michael Jordan couldn't fail. If he did everything, those three conglomerates were going to fail together.
But that just leads me to my point, the conspiracy theory. If they give him a 2-year ban, are they going to tell you? Or is what's more convenient? He went to go play baseball because look, I'm just saying. Listen,
I'm with you.
Listen,
on that.
I don't know. When you watch that series, if you don't take away that Michael Jordan had a gambling problem, there's something wrong with you. Like, dude, he has a legitimate game.
100%.
I mean, you seen the skit? What was it on? Was it SNL when Key and Peele guy played him, and then he was like playing quarters against the wall.
Yeah.
Like you have a problem, dude. You have a problem. Like when you're like,
usher.
Yeah, like when you're literally taking $10 from the usher who's like being paid minimum wage at that point. Like, come on, dude. Like, really? You just don't care at all?
He said what they say. He would take all the guys' money in the big, and he would take all the big money guys.
Yeah.
You know, and then he'd go up to the front of the plane and challenge the guys who were betting like quarters and dollars just to take their money.
Dude, he was taking quarters from people. This dude's a millionaire. He's like, I'll play you for 2 pennies and a nickel. Let's do it. Like, what? That is a level of competitiveness that I don't think we'll ever see.
Yeah.
Like, again, maybe Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that. Tom Brady's back, you know. I mean, it's hard to walk away when you had, he had a career year this year, too. I mean, that's
41 years old or something like that. 42, 41?
You know, I'm a huge Bills fan. Really? Huge Bills fan. So my whole life, I have.
Should we take a moment of silence for you, real quick?
No, because dude, we're back, baby. Dude, we're back.
I felt for you that night.
No, dude, but we're back. Listen, we're back, and we're gonna be. We have Josh Allen, who's okay. If no one wants to put this out, he's top 3 quarterback in the league right now. At least top 3. Top 3. I don't care what you say. After that game, he played a perfect game. Perfect game. So, but being a Bills fan, Tom Brady has haunted me for so long, but now I'm just at the point of respecting him.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because he's playing for Tampa.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. It makes it a lot easier. That's true. I mean,
you can respect
I guess because when we played him twice a year, dude, it was devastating.
Tough.
No, we would, and there was
It's
games
like being
where
an Orioles fan, having to play the Yankees and Red Sox 19 times a year each.
Oh, yeah.
Like, cool. All right. Here's
Dude, but
35 L's.
But you know, here's the thing. The thing about Camden Yards, though, is it's a place to go to. It's a very good experience to go to Camden Yards.
Stadium. They moved the fences back.
Did they?
In left field this year and up a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Not far enough, you know, because they've never have any pitching because it's like playing in a softball field.
Well, they don't ever want to spend money. That's the problem. You know, but you know, I think either way, Tom Brady coming back to the NFL is huge for us as just NFL fans because he's always going to be there, and it makes it a little more dramatic.
Yeah,
it makes it a little more. You got to have those guys, man, to make that stuff like that.
So, Brandon, you're one of the things I know. You're a huge soccer fan, which is something you don't see in these parts of the world. Right. Right?
Yeah.
Football. That's right. Football. That's right. Tell us about that. And I know you made a comparison earlier before we got on the show about how Brady and Saul was a Ronaldo.
Yeah, well, he went to the Manchester United Tottenham game this weekend. And what some consider the best player to ever play, Cristiano Ronaldo, scored 3 goals and basically won the game for Manchester United this weekend. You know, basically all by himself. So, and he's, I think, 37, so he's older.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know, and we've got a text thread for the, you know, 3 other guys I know that watch.
Dude, that's so sad.
Football, you know, religiously.
3 other people.
But he was like, you know, I think that had an influence because he was actually in the stands and saw an old guy performing at the top level. So he's like, maybe, you know.
Got a little juice. I hope he just doesn't get Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Dude, that last year, Brett Favre, brother, he had like 14 concussions that year. It was not good. It was not good. He was the Iron Man up until the last year he
next
played.
Thing you know, you're selling razors at 2:00 in the morning.
Dude, and you got the Tommy Copper sleeves on. Dude, he running around dude, he has a Tommy Copper back brace on in one of the videos. That's wild. Like, and what's weird is, do you ever notice on the Tommy, you ever notice they have them over their clothes for some reason? I guess they're trying to promote, but like, who the hell goes out with a back brace over their t-shirt?
Oh, that's
like,
that's not how you're supposed to do it.
Why, yeah, dude, they got like they'll have jeans on and have the Tommy Copper like sleeve on their knee over the jeans. Like, who are you?
So, Brandon, so I know kind of how you migrated into soccer, but for the people who don't, and Shane's just kind of meeting you today, although we hung out at our house the night before Thanksgiving, so you guys talk a little bit. How'd you get into soccer? Tell the world how you migrated into this soccer fandom.
Well,
or football.
Yeah, fandom. Well, really, it was dumb luck. It was back in college. My favorite beer was Carlsberg. and that was the sponsor for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I used to play the video game from time to time, but over time, it was just kind of one of those things that it was where nobody else was really interested in it. It was kind of like my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something that I could, and I've always appreciated the athletes that play it because it's a whole different level. I mean, when you're running up and down that field for 90 minutes, full sprint.
Yeah.
It's nuts how in shape those guys are. So it's kind of a respect thing. And like I said, it's kind of like it was like a unique thing just for me. And I'm sure you guys have similar things, wrestling or something like that,
Yep.
where it's kind of
we feel you on that. Yeah.
when you meet someone, that's into it as well. Bang, 10-minute conversation instantly. Don't even know the guy's name, but hey, you're a soccer fan too. Oh,
Well, it's funny because wrestling, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like wrestling is such like, if you say it like you're like a wrestling fan, they're like,
it's like code.
dude, you're like
40 wants to watch a wrestling.
Like, they're like, dude, you're like, we stopped watching wrestling when we were kids, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, we appreciate that, but like, I still watch it,
And we talk
It's
deep. We get deep into it, but I'm gonna tell you.
I guess when you have something like that that's unique to just you appreciate the people that do.
Yeah.
Because anybody can be a football fan. Like anybody can, because literally people don't even have to know, they're so marketable, they're so on TV. So people off the street that know nothing about football can be like, Tom Brady's the best quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
And
Like
that's another thing. You go to the grocery store, whoever rings you up, she's like, oh, the Ravens this and the Ravens that.
Yeah. But she knows nothing about it. She has no idea. She's like, Lamar Jackson's a great running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the best running back in the team. Like,
It
they
does
don't
become
know.
cliche.
Yeah.
And that is one thing, like, it feels special when you have something, even like the NBA, like not everybody watches the NBA, and it feels special because I'm so into this.
Yeah.
And
And
it feels exclusive.
And it's kind of like football and baseball mixed together. The season is 9 months like baseball, and they play once a week like football. So it's like basically having the NFL season for 9 months a year.
Dude, 9 months?
Yeah. It starts in August and
Dude.
ends in May. And then they have
That's
European.
exhausting.
So, like, each country in Europe, the top 4 teams from each country qualify for the Champions League. So it's a mix of the best teams from Italy and France and Germany and England. So it's very entertaining.
It's really confusing to me, to be honest with you. And maybe that's because, again, I mean, we mentioned it last week, but like, I mean, in terms of CTE and stuff like that, it's just hard. You guys get confusing when it's like the Champions League, but then we have the MLS, or then we have that. You have so many
as well.
Yeah,
so the bottom, like for the Premier League, for example, there's 20 teams in the league. If you're in the last 3 places, you go down to AAA, or the equivalent of what base league will be. And the opposite is, so if the AAA division, the top 2 teams automatically get promoted. And then there's the next 4 teams, so 3 through 6, play in a playoff bracket, and the winner of that goes up as well. And then those 3 teams come down. So it's awesome. So effectively, the Shorebirds could make it to Major League Baseball one day.
But my question is, though, like, this is the wild part, though. The Shorebirds, they have triple, but see, that's what I'm saying. Like, is the talent level across the board the same?
No. Not at all.
Okay, so
it's kind of like rooting for Morgan State in the NCAA tournament or something. Cinderella times 10. I mean, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah.
And there were like Leicester City when they won the league like 5 years ago. They were 2,500 to 1 to win the league.
Yeah.
And they won the league. Imagine putting $10 on that.
Dude, that's Well, see, that's
that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like the NFL is and anybody can win. One of the things I do like about soccer and the NBA is like the best teams always win. Like they're like in the NFL, there's not really a Cinderella story. It's like anybody can win at any time.
Well, the Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl.
Okay,
so
all right.
Cincinnati Bengals went.
I know when to digress.
I mean, listen, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Bills early in the season.
But you're not really shocked. Like, I mean, you are, but you're not. It's like the NFL's like.
I think football's a little less different, like the March Madness and all that stuff. Like, there is Cinderella stories because I believe when you have like some of those Division I colleges that make it and they don't have a Division I football program or anything, they still have studs. On the court, and I think football is a huge. The difference between football, soccer, and every other sport is your size, strength. All of that stuff, the cliche stuff, is really important.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be the fastest guy in soccer. It helps, but you have to be probably more technically sound, I would assume, at that kind of stuff. And in basketball, dude, you could literally be the slowest guy, but if you have a jumper, a mid-range jumper, then you're dangerous.
Or the smallest guy.
Right.
Like Muggsy Bogues, you know?
That's what I'm
saying. Sit
saying.
on a phone book to drive to the games and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. So there's probably more parity because in terms of football, I mean, have you seen some of the players that like the combine was last week?
Yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
every
That's a good
person
point.
was running like a 4.40.
Yeah.
Like what? Like that's a freight train. When you're 215, 220, that's a problem. That guy's a problem running.
Him saying like Leicester City comes in, they're basically what would happen to the Shorebirds went into the MLB and won it. That's like insane.
But that's what I mean. Like
it's
that.
mind-boggling that something like that would ever happen.
That
Especially
doesn't happen that often.
But it can.
Yeah,
It
certainly.
can.
Now,
It can.
speaking of Cinderella stories and things that are exclusive, things that people that kind of like things that are their own, I want to segue in because Maurice is kind of telling us to wrap it up, but I want to segue in and kind of end with this today because I think it's important to why we're here and why Brandon's here. But it's how Brandon became an appraiser because like us, he's kind of a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
He and Brandon, everybody else is into real estate and everybody else is into all this, and Brandon said, I want to take the other road. Like I want to look into appraising.
Yeah.
He calls me up one day. Tell him what happened.
Yeah, I was working at my job.
This is random.
My normal job and
NavTrack.
Yeah, NavTrack, GPS company used to be here, and I just one night I was on YouTube or doing something. I can't remember what exactly it was, but I was watching something about real estate appraisals, and I was like, man, that kind of looks like fun. You can kind of set your own schedule, do your own thing, Heck, it's kind of appealing, especially when I was an accountant, staring at the same four walls every day. So I mentioned something to Matt about it, and then the very next day, you got talking with what turned out to be the gentleman I bought the business off of.
It was the wildest thing. So Brandon calls me up on it was like a Sunday night or something. I don't know what it was. And I was trying to find I was working on a deal down at Princess Anne. Brandon calls me. I was like, "Hey man, I just watched this segment on Appraisers, man. This is awesome, man. These guys they're all doing real well, and I think it's something I'm interested in." I said, "Really?" So we talked about it. It's a normal conversation like this, like we normally would on a Sunday night. And the next day, I'm talking to this guy about a deal on Princess Anne. He said, "Call this guy Jim," which Jim DWade. A lot of you guys probably are familiar with Jim DWade in our market, long time appraiser. So I didn't know Jim at the time. I called him up. When I call the office managers, hello, appraisal services, may I help you? So I kind of put that to the side. I'm on the phone with Jim. We're talking about the deal in Princess Anne. At the very end of the conversation, I said, by the way, did I hear this right that you actually are an appraiser? And he said, yeah, buddy, what's it to you? If you know Jim DeVage's voice, yeah, buddy, what the hell is it? What's it to you? I said, well, I got a friend that I was just talking to last night that said that he may be interested in getting into appraising. Are you looking for anybody? He said, matter of fact, buddy, he's like, I am looking for somebody. He said, for the right person, I'd probably just go ahead and turn the whole damn business over to him. And he said, tell me about this guy. I said, well, my buddy, he's an accountant. He likes to golf. He said, golf, send him in here. And that's kind of how the connection started.
Yeah, right. And it was weird, too, when I got there because he was a golf pro, then became an accountant, then became an appraiser. I was a golf pro, then became an accountant, then became an appraiser. So I think that's where he kind of took it into, all right, this is, and so it's, they say crazy stuff like that doesn't happen too often, but yeah, that was.
Hey man, right thing.
Nuts.
It's meant to be.
Nuts.
It's meant to be when something like that comes together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it's weird. I always say like signs. You see certain things, you're like, oh, I'm right. I'm on the right path. When you something like that, you knew it was meant to be appraiser at that point in time. You know what I mean?
It's weird.
That's awesome.
I watched the movie American Underdog this weekend, and Dick Vermeil told Kurt Warner, "Destiny is for the underdogs," right? And I believe that, man.
Yeah.
So I think we're all kind of in that same boat here. And I don't think any of us should be probably sitting here. I know you forever. I've known your story, and well, you know mine. So but it's been a great episode. Today's episode, by the way, since we're gonna wrap up, gotta get our plugs in. Today's episode is brought to you by the Maryland Delaware Group of Long and Foster, Rainier Development Company, and Chesapeake Appraisal Services. If you guys are looking for appraising, give Brandon Ross a call. Brandon, we really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you,
thanks
brother.
for having me on.
Seriously, I know.
Be the first guest.
Yeah,
Thank you guys.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
And Brandon will probably want to be a regular on the show at some point. We'll see him more and more. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is Shane Snoots. I'm Matt Trader. We'll see you next time right here on Prop Culture.
Peace.
Sorry, man. I didn't mean to, like Maurice was giving me. I was trying to figure out how to get to that story, dude, in my head.
Come on. Gotta go.
Oh yeah.
Gotta go. Nope. Don't forget your phone.
That's all good.
Don't forget your phone, Trader.
Sorry,
It's in the chair.
We could have talked like another